Welcome to another episode of The Radio Shop. Today we're looking at a General Electric Model 860. Some call it the Atomic Radio, some call it the Leave It to Beaver radio. You'll have to excuse the noise in the background. I've got the 3D printer going. It's printing me a radio part. Anyway, back to this GE 860. We're going to take a look at it, clean it up, recap it, because it has a lot of what looks like nicotine on it, or some kind of brown substance on the front here. It seems to be simple to take apart. 2 screws in the back, and it is a very, very small print because it is on a printed circuit board. It is a very, very, very small radio circuit. Miniature tubes, tiny capacitors, tiny circuit. So let's take a look. So if we look at the back here, here's the circuit board, filter capacitors, paper cap, another paper cap over here. This one looks like it's been replaced because this one's a .05 and this one's a .047, so this one looks like it's replaced. Has a couple of disc caps, tubes, on-off tuning. Interesting note is it does have a nice dial light up here. Move this down so you can see. Does have a nice dial light down here, and I haven't seen it yet or seen one of these, but I've heard that these light up really nice. So the Atomic radio, the Leave It to Beaver radio, because supposedly it was in it. There's one in the background in the end of in a Leave It to Beaver episode. So we're going to recap this, and then we are going to test her out, clean her up, get her all nice and shiny looking. So it appears a previous repair person broke the shaft on this because the shaft was pressed on and they just ripped it off. When I released this, it just fell out. Oop. Looks like it was glued on. I'll have to glue it back and shove it back together, but somebody had yanked too hard on that and broke it. So here's the underside. Here's the underside of the circuit board. This is one of these very early circuit boards that the traces can lift really easily if you're not careful when you're heating things. I'm going to have to pull this filter capacitor off over here, and I'm going to have to be very careful not to lift the traces with the soldering iron. Might be a little bit of a pain to do it, but yeah, these circuit boards, while were ingenious at the time, over time the traces start to lift off the board if you're not careful. So I got the filter cap out. It is a 2-section 50 and 50 microfarad at 150 volts. So we'll get some replacements for that put in, and away we go. So this set is covered with nasty, nasty, nasty nicotine inside and out. And I'm going to see what I can do to clean her up. You can just see the nicotine here on the inside of this. If you turn this radio upside down, you can actually see more of the gunk up in here in the slats. You can see the color it's supposed to be is kind of that white color. Anyway, back to the radio here, this GE860 atomic and or leave it to Beaver radio, whichever you want to call it. This radio was totally covered in bad nicotine and which not, and it was nasty. Things are corroded, the switch is corroded, the switch doesn't work right, the pilot light's out, I gotta fix the pilot light. I have currently going on some nasty RFI interference in my house, and I'm not sure why it's there. It wasn't there earlier, it is now there during this radio test. So we're going to get down to the bottom of this, figure it out, work through some more things. I had to spray a ton of cleaner into the back of this switch. It is a push-pull on-off switch, and it does not want to make connection every time, so I'm going to have to spray some more cleaner in it to get it clean. I've got to clean the knobs, I've got to clean the dial, I got to clean the back of the case because it is just coated in nicotine and cigarette tar. So this was in a heavy smoker's house. So we're going to do a little bit more to it and get back for another test. Stay tuned. The tuning dial of this GE radio, the plastic has sort of crumbled and cracked and whatnot on previous owners' attempts at repair, or previous repair technicians' attempt at repair, and it is just cracked in so many pieces. Even after I glued it back together, it was kind of a split shaft D, and it had a metal bracket to keep it pinched down over the D shaft here on the radio. However, this is so cracked and soft, and it will not glue back. It was in so many pieces I glued it back, and it still doesn't want to stay. You can see it's just too far rubbery. So I'm going to build a new one on the 3D printer, cut this one off, glue it down in place, and go from there. Alright, here's the new 3D printed shaft. It's going to go on this. I've already test fitted it on the shaft of the radio and it fits. So I'm going to end up cutting this off, epoxying this to this. And once the glue dries, we'll do a test fit and go from there. I have to make sure I get this in the right, facing the right direction, because if I don't, then the dial will be off. So here is the tuning indicator with the repaired shaft on it. Going to wait for the epoxy to completely set up before I try to do anything with it. But there it is. Here is the completed dial after shaft repair back on the radio. Turn, turn, turn.
Water and something really kind of weenie about the weenials of today. To not want to step up and take on the big stage and take on that pressure. No, because there's a reason. Why is there a reason that I'm not broadcasting for the Modesto Nuts right now? And that I'm on fire. They're a great team, but guess what? Broadcasting for the Modesto Nuts radio station, calling the game for the Modesto Nuts is not the goal. If you want